Hello and welcome to the 18th ever episode of the Unsigned Manager podcast. My name is Siji Kolawole, and each week I take a look at football's biggest stories, headlines, events from both the past and the present to really take a look at what's going on and analyse the situation. Now, this is the episode I was going to do last week, but the transfer window went absolutely bonkers, so I decided to push it back. Now, since then, transfer window has continued to go crazy, but I'm over it now, and I want to take a look at this new series I want to work on. I think it can be really easy in football to arbitrarily compare players and just go, oh yeah, he's better than him, or he's clear of him, like they say on the internet all the time, but I don't know how much research people are doing. I'm not sure how in depth they're taking a look, so I want to start that. The idea behind this series will be I want to take a look at two players from two slightly different generations, or maybe overlapping, who are close in level and really decide who I'd rather have on my team. Now, this will build to a bigger series that I'm planning to do later when I've got more time. I can really take a look at that, but for the opening part of the series, I want us to do the comparisons. I want to work it out. So what's interesting to me is when you look at these two players I'm going to do today, they really lit up my football childhood. One of them is my personal favourite. Probably my favourite football player of all time. And the other one has dismantled the league I watch every week and went on to have some spectacular moments. They're two of the best players of their generation, and their peaks weren't far from each other, and actually I think their peaks overlapped more than I realised in the beginning. Their best moments are some of the best in football history, and if you're a defender, you know how hard it can be to defend a 1v1. Most attackers have a unique style to their play, a signature technique. Some more explosive, some more finesse, some more direct, some more tricky. Some players prefer power, some are curler. So what I'm wondering is, who do you prefer? Gareth Bale or Robben? So let's get into the episode. So if you know me personally, you know I've been thinking about this comparison for a while. I have spent many a night arguing about these two players. Bale and Robben are obviously quite different, but their effect and play style can be really similar at times, and their peaks were absolutely out of this world. Now, like I said in the intro, and make sure to say again, I am biased. Robben is probably in my top 3 players ever, and if you ask me on any random day, he might be number 1. But I want to take this serious. I hate when people compare players and they can't take their own bias out of it, or they can't use their own critical thinking to cut away from the emotion they have with that player. So I want to lay out all the evidence. And at the end, I will explain my decision about who I would take out of the two of them. Now, like I said in the intro, this will lead to a further series, but I haven't fully worked that out yet, so I don't want to debut it. But I'm going to do these comparisons over the season, and then at the end, I'll lay all the players out that I would have picked, and then we'll do something. Cool. So I don't want this to be a corny, childish argument like Messi versus Ronaldo worshippers. I want to take this serious. I take things like this really seriously because once you're looking at players at the level of these two, it's fine margins that make all the difference. So to base all my decisions, I'm going to take a look at these factors. Overall, what they did in their career. Trophies they won, both individual and team. I'll explain why at the time. Key stats for their position and the time period they played in. That's an important one. What did they do in their biggest moments? And then I'll get to my decision. And I feel like this is a fair base because I want to cover how well they contributed to a team, as well as look at the work they put in as an individual. When the pressure rose, where were they? How much could you count on them to perform? Now let's start with Robben. Now we all know Robben is the answer to that corny quote you see on the internet all the time. Do not fear a man who's practiced 10,000 kicks one time. Fear the man who's practiced one kick 10,000 times. Heard it so many times about Robben, but it's true. He perfected that specific dribbling style, the high chest, the lots of touches, constantly feinting so you never knew when he was going to cut inside. And when he did, cutting from the right onto his left, it was game over. people, you see that style now used all the time. The best example is Riyad Mahrez. Watching Riyad Mahrez is almost like for like watching Robben. That kind of style. Robben was a bit faster, a bit more athletic, but Mahrez has done the perfect copycat in a good way, not in a bad way, in a good way of knowing exactly when to cut inside, keeping the ball real close to his feet so you can't ever do it, constantly faking so you never know where he's going. Nicolas Pepe is another one. But we're looking at the Dutchman. Let's look at where he started. Started his career at his closest hometown club, FC Groningen, after making his way through the club's academy. It became well known that Robben was really technical and had outstanding ball control, which made him really difficult to tackle. Then he was promoted to the first team in the 1999-2000 season under manager Jan van Dijk, but it took him a while to get some game time. But when the opportunity came, Robben grabbed it. The following season, 2000-2001, Robben made 18 starts. He won Player of the Year and improved his output in his second season, which led to a call from Dutch's big boys. He moved to PSV Eindhoven in the 2002-2003 season, where he played 33 games and won another Player of the Year at the club. If you remember, I say that like I remember. I don't remember him at the time, but I remember him from looking back. Mateo Kezman, a striker. By all accounts, him and Robben had a great relationship, which led to the phenomenal nickname of Batman and Robben. I respect it. But it wasn't just individual success for the Dutchman. He also won Most Talented Player of the Season that year in the league, and he helped PSV win their 17th Dutch title. And something that will become apparent about Robben, this guy wins everywhere he goes without fail. He's getting calls from some of the big boys around Europe at the time, and Manchester United came knocking on the door for him. He met with Sir Alex, who thought he'd be a great talent to put on Man United's wing, and Sir Alex was all ready to put in a bid. PSV owner told United that €7 million would be enough to get the deal done, but before that was even possible, Chelsea's new mega-rich owner, Roman Abramovich, smacked down €18 million and PSV jumped at the chance. Right, we're in the 04-05 season, which I have a sneaking suspicion is a good one for Chelsea. Check out one of the podcast episodes about that. Tough luck for Robben, who was recovering from a broken metatarsal he sustained in pre-season. So he didn't make his Premier League debut until about November, but when he came back, man, was he electric. He won Player of the Month in his first month in the Prem, scored 7 goals in that campaign, and was shortlisted for Young Player of the Year. But a bad injury against Blackburn kept him out of all the big moments for Chelsea that season. The League Cup final, the Champions League semi-final against Liverpool. If you haven't watched that, go and see that insane game. And the title running. Robben missed all of it through injury. So the following season, he came back with a vengeance and became one of Chelsea's major pieces in that dangerous attack. Him, Joe Cole, Damien Duff, Didier Drogba. Robben played 28 games that next season, contributed to 10 goals, as Chelsea won their first ever back-to-back titles. The following one would be his last season in England's capital. Although he was classic Robben in periods, really coming into his own, he was really fragile and his injuries were constant, and he just couldn't stay on the pitch for long enough to make a sustained impact. 106 games, 19 goals, 22 assists was all it was going to be because Robben was moving. And he went from one capital city to another, swapping London for Madrid. Real Madrid's president at the time, Ramon Calderón, was said to be heavily fond of Robben, and after much negotiation with Chelsea, the deal was done in August 2007. I'm Robben, meet the Bernabeu. This is key to note, sorry I didn't say this earlier, at this time Robben is predominantly a left winger. He is a very direct, flying left winger who gets to the byline, makes crosses or finds an angle to drill the ball into the far corner. Think Leroy Sané at Manchester City. He signed a 5-year contract in Spain, with Madrid paying £24 million for his services, and he makes his debut in the Champions League as a substitute for Raul and became a crucial part of the side, a real fan favourite. 28 appearances, 10 goal involvements, and he was again lifting silverware in Madrid as they won the league with games to spare over arch rivals Barcelona in Robben's first season. Florentino Perez then returns to Madrid after his first stint as president, and he wants to reignite the Galacticos. So Robben's name is in danger. It wasn't due to poor performances. He'd been great in his second season at the club, and he's one of the key members of the team. The issue was that he played on the left wing, and so did Cristiano Ronaldo. And to help offset Ronaldo's world record fee, Madrid accepted a cut price of 25 million euros from German powerhouse Bayern Munich. Robben didn't actually want to go. I didn't know this. He said he was forced to leave Madrid because they wanted to make way for his new stars, but he would have happily stayed. And it's weird because when I think of him, obviously I think of him in a Bayern shirt, like I assume most people do, but I wonder how different it would have been if he stayed in Madrid. I can't really see that. So, sorry, for context, this is now the point where I know about Robben, the Bayern Munich version. 2009-10 Champions League was the first one I was fully invested and conscious of what was going on. This was the first Champions League that introduced me to major football characters, Jose Mourinho, Pep Guardiola and others, because I was too young to have known about the Spanish League and really follow it. Same with the German League, but the Champions League brought them all to me on ITV, weekday nights after school. This is the way. This is where I learned about Arjen Robben. I actually didn't like him as much in the beginning. I was always a Frank Ribery guy. Ribery was my favourite. He had a scar that looked cool. He was right-footed like me. He was a bit more of a creator, so his passes and dribbles were more fun compared to Robben, but Robben was more effective. That season in the Champions League, this guy scored a crazy volley against Man United from a Ribery corner. I must have spent hours practicing that volley in the park. Cut inside, curler into the top corner against Fiorentina, which is a great goal. Will be in all the goals I'll talk about. I'll try and put in the links because everyone should have seen these. You're doing yourself a disservice if you haven't seen them. And then he helps Bayern Munich reach the final that year. Ultimately, they lose to Jose Mourinho's Inter Milan, which I've also done an episode on. But that Bayern Munich team is a serious squad, and Robben is amazing that entire season, finishing with 31 goal involvements in 37 games, which is outrageous for a winger at that level. At this point, because Ribery was playing on the left and he was already comfortable there, Robben transitioned into the right wing cut inside monster that we know now. He only played one game on the left all season that year. He finished as Bayern Munich's top scorer, which is mad because this is a team that had Miroslav Klose and Ivica Olic in it. He was named German Football Player of the Year. He won a league and a cup double as well as making it to a Champions League final. So as a debut season, it's not a bad one. And yeah, although he is outstanding and Bayern are dominant, Robben hasn't converted in any major games at this point. Like, you expect Bayern Munich, yeah, it's disrespectful, sorry to the rest of the German league, but you expect them to roll over the German Cup. You expect them to do fine in the Pokal, but in Champions League games, that's where you're looking at Bayern's big players to step up. When they lost the final to Inter Milan, that was one, but then they go to lose another one against Chelsea in the Allianz at home, which is, that was a rough one. And then, we're not talking about internationals, but he also loses a World Cup final with Netherlands against Spain in that World Cup in 2010. So Robben's having an absolute stinker. He missed a crucial extra time penalty in the final against Chelsea, but could have won them the game, which actually created tension between him and Bayern fans for a while. So that was the last piece of the puzzle for him. He's made himself an outstanding individual player. He's got good team success, but he needs to prove himself in a big moment. And he would do that a year later, when Bayern matched up against arch-rivals Borussia Dortmund in the Champions League final at Wembley. First, Robben sets up the first goal for Mario Mandzukic, cross for Mandzukic to poke it in and end it, and then he nets an 89th minute winner to seal the game. And listen to the commentary. Martin Tyler has done himself an absolute wonder here.
Frenchman's done well. Robben is there! Arjen Robben has surely won it for Bayern Munich to continue his great personal record here at Wembley. With 90 seconds on the clock, Robben raced in and rolled it into the net. Oh, he's done very well. That's it. Bayern Munich, the German champions, the champions of Europe. At 68, Jupp Heynckes has steered Bayern to a double, and the treble is still on for next Saturday. Robben late, but they've ended the losers' tag, the likes of Lahm and Muller and a fifth time. This is their time. The brilliant Bayern Munich. It's worth all that pain.
Arjen Robben has now completed the domestic game, winning league titles everywhere he'd been, and he could now finally consider himself a European champion. And with that Champions League final win, Bayern became the first German team to win a treble, and things were still looking up for them. Widely considered the best manager in the world at the time, Pep Guardiola had just signed on to become their new manager. He tinkered with some things, he changed the formation, he famously moved Philipp Lahm to defensive midfield, and he did all of that with the purpose of bringing the best out of Robben, especially because of his 1v1 ability and his finishing in the box. I'm going to talk about the game later. I think it comes up in a later section, but if you haven't seen it, go watch Roma versus Bayern in the Champions League group stage when Bayern wins 7-1. Pep talks about it in his book as well. The entire game plan of that game is for everyone in the Bayern Munich team to go and stand on the left-hand side of the pitch. Everyone, literally everyone, go and overload the left-hand side, because all he wanted was one defender to half-mark Robben on the right-hand side. Robben just stands on the right wing. All the Bayern players, everyone, centre-backs, left-backs, all the central midfield players, the 9, they're all on the left-hand side, and Robben is 1v1 on the right. Every time Roma overcommit, they swing it over to Robben, he goes 1v1, he kills someone, and he scores. I think he gets a goal and 2 assists in that game. He's unstoppable. He might get 2 goals, actually. Anyway, Robben is great under Pep. Throughout his tenure, Robben gets 47 goals in 97 games under Guardiola, which is kind of crazy considering this is the team that had Robert Lewandowski and Thomas Muller in it. Robben scoring 1 every 2 games. He basically stays in Germany, batters the German league for years, and eventually age catches up to him. And after a brief return to Groningen during COVID-19, Robben retires from the game at 37 years old in July of 2021. But as one man retires, another man moves back to Spain. Let's talk about Gareth Bale. Now, similar to Robben, Bale's had a slightly nomadic career, which at times has also been hampered by injury. But before all that, let's rewind to the early days. Gareth's born in Cardiff, and is actually the nephew of a Cardiff City professional in Chris Pike. As a fast Welshman, it's no surprise, his footballing idol is Man United legend Ryan Giggs. And Gareth Bale was a serious athlete when he's younger, multifaceted. Could have been a very successful rugby player or a sprinter, but football was the one for him. He got onto Southampton's radar at 9 years old, and at 16 he becomes the second youngest player to ever play for the Saints after Theo Walcott. Shout out Theo Walcott. When you coach football, the one story every coach will tell you about is Gareth Bale. Now the issue is in football coaching is a lot of coaches don't want to keep players who are not physically developed depending on their age. So as soon as you get to about 12, 13, 14, technique starts going out the window and physicality becomes the most important thing. Every FA licensed coach will have heard this story of Southampton being ready to release a player who wasn't that physically developed for his age, but one coach decided to give him a chance and keep him on, and he turned into Gareth Bale. 9 years old, he's at Southampton, and at 16, he's their second youngest player ever, and he would have been released because he wasn't that big when he was about 12 or 13. Bale managed to sidestep all that and made his name as a professional when he was younger as a free kick taker, scoring some dead balls against Derby, Coventry and West Brom, then more against Hull and Norwich. I don't know who this guy thought he was, just putting everything in the top corner. Guy must have thought he was Janino or something. But he was crowned Football League Young Player of the Year for the 06-07 season, with the media saying that he was Southampton's, quote, most creative player, even though he was operating from left back, and his defending improved immeasurably as the season progressed, end quote. He had an electric first season at St Mary's, but also happened to be his last. North London club Tottenham came knocking for the left back for £5 million in May of 2007. Bale started well at Spurs, scoring in his second game for the club, bagging yet another free kick in the North London derby, which is a massive deal for a young player. But unfortunately, heavy tackle from Fabrice Muamba in December of 2007 left Bale with the first of many injuries he would sustain in his career. The medical scan showed that he had ligament damage in his ankle, which ruled him out for the rest of the season, but it wasn't all bad news for the Welshman. He returned to the side in August 2008, same time he signed a new 4-year deal with the club. So if you're thinking to yourself, as a 18-year-old, he must have been at that point, Tottenham got enough faith that even though he's just sustained a heavy injury, they want to keep him on for 4 years. You're living. And the 08-09 season was good for him. He made 30 appearances in all comps, which is good recovery after a major injury. But it didn't last too long, because the following summer, Bale had to undergo knee surgery, which completely ruined his pre-season. And he made his season debut about 6 weeks in. I completely forgot this at the time until I did the research, but do you remember Gareth Bale was a curse? Basically, there was a stat floating around that Tottenham had not won a Premier League game Gareth Bale had featured in since he joined the club. Which is actually kind of insane when you think about it. At this point, he's been at Tottenham for 2 seasons. Yeah, mashed up by injury, but the guy can't win a Premier League game. So what Redknapp did, fair enough to him, when Tottenham were beating Burnley 5-0, Bale just returned from injury. He put him on for 5 minutes in the 85th, and it was the first time he'd ever won a Premier League game. August 2007 to September 2009, it took him over 2 years to win a Premier League game. Shout out to Harry Redknapp. Anyway, in early 2010, Tottenham starting left-back Benoit Assou-Ekotto got injured over a long period, which meant Bale could get more minutes. If you remember Assou-Ekotto, this is the guy who was playing in the Prem and said that he didn't like football, and everyone was like, "Are you alright? What's happening here? What's going on?" He's injured, so Bale can get more minutes. And Bale grabbed those minutes with both hands. He starred against Peterborough in the FA Cup. He was strong against Fulham in his first league win as a starter. Strong again against Arsenal in the North London derby when he scored the winner. Then he scored the winner against Chelsea and grabbed Player of the Month for April. Gareth Bale's on a run. He signed his 3rd contract at Tottenham because of his good performances, demanded more wages, and he helped Tottenham progress in the Champions League. And once he got on this roll, he just did not stop. We're at the 2010-2011 season. 2 goals against Stoke. The second one is that volley. You know that volley where his leg is at his head and he puts it in the top corner over the keeper? It's filthy. I'll link it. Then he creates 4 goals in Tottenham's Champions League playoff game against Young Boys. He's putting it all together now. Attacking threat, athleticism, decisiveness, the pieces to the completed puzzle of a top player. He's putting it real together. Like I said, Assou-Ekotto was Tottenham's starting left back at the time, and he just came back from injury at this point. But Bale was flying. So rather than stop his momentum, Harry Redknapp decided to move him to the left wing, play Assou-Ekotto at left back because Bale was a bit better going forward. Masterstroke, amazing decision. He went on to score his first Champions League goal in September 2010 and was awarded Welsh Player of the Year that season, and that would continue on for many seasons. Then in October came one of his greatest performances, the one that put him on the international map. Now I'm an Arsenal fan, so I have discredited this performance for years, but it is top notch. And if you don't know, I'm talking about Inter Milan at the San Siro. Tottenham actually lost that game 4-3. I feel like no one remembers that. Tottenham lost, so this doesn't mean nothing. But all 3 goals were set up by Bale, who used his athleticism, decisiveness, finishing, dribbling ability, power, packed them all up and delivered them right onto Inter Milan's aging defence. Now the biggest problem I always had with this game is that Inter Milan's defence had an average age of 34, I think, at the time. So I'm thinking Gareth Bale should be running through them, but I was taking too much credit away from him. He toasted their entire defence. And considering this is the team that won the Champions League that season, he did big things against them. He was so direct, so unstoppable. The first goal, he's starting in his own half and he drives past Zanetti. then Maicon, then Samuel, and Zanetti is fighting him at every opportunity to win the ball, but it doesn't happen. It's the same with the second goal, really. Just drives past them, drives past. They can't stop him, and he's drawing foul after foul. This is a phenomenal individual performance. Bale was on different stuff that night. The third one, I think ball spills out to him and gets laid off, and he just bangs it in the bottom corner, job done. But hat-trick against the Champions League winners for that season, that's a big performance. Just shows how good he was getting. And then the second leg wasn't too bad either. Gets man of the match and gets 2 assists as Tottenham win 3-1. It's November 2010 and big interests are coming from big clubs. But Gareth publicly announced that he wants to finish out his Tottenham contract, and then 5 months later he extends the contract until 2015. Further credit to his name would be coming soon. He won the 2010-2011 Players Player of the Year. And then the next season came and the momentum keeps rolling. Big goals in big games. Real influence on Tottenham's performances. Another Player of the Month. Another new contract with improved terms. And a new squad number. That number 3 Gareth Bale was gone. The number 11 was here. His last season in the Premier is 2012-2013. Now if you were watching this season at the time, you know this is one of the maddest things we've ever seen in the Prem. And I really mean that. This goes in that upper top tier bracket for me of Henry's 24 and 20, when Suarez became a football terrorist, RVP United, Ronaldo in the mid-2000s. If someone told me that Gareth Bale was on roids this season, it would make a lot of sense. Zinedine Zidane said he was the best player not playing in the Champions League that year, which is pretty obvious. But he also added that he wasn't far off Ronaldo and Messi, and that is a big claim. 21 goals and 9 assists from Tottenham's right-hand side. He's like an inverted winger / inside forward, and he puts up 26 goals and 15 assists in all competitions, which is absolutely disgusting. 41 goal involvements in 44 games is unheard of. You can't really stop that. Ferguson and Man United are chasing him like mad. Bale was routinely putting the Premier League to the sword, and it must have been frustrating for him because this is actually necessary. The Tottenham team he played on was not good at all. If he wasn't putting up these numbers, I don't know what they would have amounted to. Andre Villas-Boas was their manager. Bad. The attack was completely directionless without him, so Bale was having to do everything by himself. Bad. Modric and Van der Vaart had left for bigger times, wanted to play on better teams with better players and not have so much responsibility. Good for them, bad for Spurs. Without Bale going supernova, who knows? And don't shoot me for this, but he took up that Messi role. That starting wide, but doing his best work behind the 9, where he could pick up the ball in central areas and then make decisions. Do I need to dribble? Do I need to pass? Do I need to shoot? When you gave him that much responsibility, that's where Bale thrived. It's long to go through everything he did that season, but essentially every week he did something mad, and it had to be done because no one else would have done it at Tottenham. But eventually it ended the same way most things ended for Tottenham at the time. Last day of the season, Arsenal were at Newcastle, Spurs were at home to Sunderland. Bale scores a screamer from about 25 or 30, but it's just not enough because Arsenal won at Newcastle to stop Tottenham getting Champions League football, so for them, another wasted season. He was so good, so unplayable, but he was tired at the lack of success. When a European superpower comes calling for you, it can be tough not to pick up the phone. 100 million euros. It took 100 million euros for Real Madrid to finally secure Gareth Bale's services from Tottenham. Man United tried, but they don't have the same allure as the Spanish giants, and he broke the world record transfer fee and became the newest superstar at the Bernabeu. Over 5 years, Madrid signed Karim Benzema, Ricardo Kaká, Angel Di Maria, Cristiano Ronaldo and Gareth Bale. What a front line that is. His opening season in Madrid was tough. He only played about 5 full games in Madrid's first 16, missing 5 through injury and some through only being a sub. But he did score in his debut, but he struggled to get to the level we'd seen at Tottenham when he first got there, which does make sense because you go from being the ultimate option, the final decision maker at your previous club, to just another talented player, and not even the most talented player. at your new club, so it doesn't surprise me it took a while for him to bed in. Classic Spanish media, Bale came on for half an hour in his first Clásico and still managed to draw heavy media criticism. But he flipped that into a stellar performance, scoring 2 and assisting 2 against Sevilla, and he just kept kicking on from there. Scoring, assisting, being decisive in games and big games too. You would have seen this goal. It's phenomenal the way he does it. Last 5 minutes of the 2014 Copa del Rey final. He can't run past Bartra because the gap between Bartra and the touchline is too tight. So Bale knocks the ball down the wing and runs off the pitch and runs back on it before poking the ball into the bottom corner. It's
got a 2-on-1 momentarily there at the far post. Contrao, Bale, oh, Bartra, beat for pace here by Gareth Bale. It's a terrific run, can he go all the way? Gareth Bale lights up the Copa del Rey final. A Welshman abroad celebrates, and Real Madrid are less than 6 minutes away from lifting the Copa del Rey through Gareth Bale.
I think at the time you think to yourself, oh, he's just fast and he's used his fire, but not many other players could afford to do that. Bale does something really serious that game, and it wasn't even his last cup final of the season. He wouldn't have dreamed of making a Champions League final in Tottenham, but in Madrid he did it in year 1, and Real were facing up against Atletico Madrid. A big derby in the biggest game in club football. And he scores to put Madrid up 2-1 in extra time, leading to a 4-1 win as Los Blancos won their 10th ever Champions League. And nicknamed the BBC, Real's front line of Bale, Benzema and Cristiano Ronaldo ended that season with 97 goals between them. Bale contributed 22 and 19 assists in all comps, the same exact goal involvement tally from his best ever season at Tottenham the year before, so turns out the adaptation period wasn't actually too long. The next season, 14-15, was pretty much similar going, 17 goals, 12 assists for Madrid, but there were lows as well as highs. The fans got on his back, and not for the last time I might add, because they thought he was being too selfish and he wasn't passing the ball to main man Cristiano Ronaldo enough, and the criticism got rough to the point that Ancelotti had to come out and publicly defend his star, who then had another injury towards the end of the season and was ruled out. The next few years for Bale Madrid are quite similar, so I'm going to run through them all at once. 2015-16, top knot Gareth Bale. This is a new one. Zidane becomes Real Madrid manager. That front three gets to 200 goals combined throughout all their time. Bale gets a calf injury from the season before, and he is sidelined for 2 months. He becomes the highest scoring British player in Spanish football history. He wins his second Champions League as Madrid reopened another wound against Atletico Madrid, and he ends that year with 19 goals and 15 assists in only 31 games. So still outrageous individual performances. 2016-17. New contract extension until 2022, but ankle injury ruled him out for 4 months in November. He made his 100th league appearance in a Clásico against Barcelona, but Real Madrid lost 3-2, and Gareth gained another injury. So he only played 19 games that season, and he spent most of it ruled out through injury, but again, more team success. A league title for Zidane, and Bale's 3rd Champions League after a 4-1 win against Juventus. 2017-18, another season, similar results. Not bad numbers, 21 goals, 7 assists. I say not bad numbers, that's still phenomenal numbers. Another Champions League. So this is the one where he scored 2 goals in the final and became the first substitute to be named man of the match after the outrageous 18-yard overhead kick. I'll play the audio now.
Hello. 3 in the box waiting for the cross, and it was Bale! What about that from Gareth Bale? Off the bench with a fabulous finish. Real Madrid 2, Liverpool 1. A classic Champions League final goal from Gareth Bale.
but for some reason it wasn't still the same shine that we saw at Tottenham. His performances, except in the Champions League final, they become less electric. There was less of a good atmosphere around his name. There wasn't as much love for Bale as there'd been before. But that goal in the final was probably the greatest Champions League goal in history. And he added a 4th trophy to his name, including 3 in a row. 18-19 was a rough one for Los Blancos. They felt the loss of losing their greatest ever player, Cristiano Ronaldo, to Juventus, so Bale and Benzema attempted to shoulder the load, but it's difficult to replace a guaranteed 50 goals a season. Bale's attacking contributions were declining. He was really falling out of favour with fans. Obviously, Wales, golf, Madrid was a big thing. And it didn't come as a surprise when he was ready to leave the club. Now, for a player of his quality, it actually was harder than it should have been to find a new club for him, which is sad given how good he is. The issues in signing Gareth Bale are twofold. The first one, his outrageous wages. It was reported he was making about 600,000 euros a week in Spain. So what on earth who can pay that? And secondly, he was so injured, so constantly injured, that it didn't make paying that wage worth it. There's no point at Manchester City or a PSG or even a Man United paying that, because you're only going to play him for 18, 19 a season because he just can't stay fit. It became a Chinese Super League club who were close enough to signing his signature, but in the end Madrid pulled out on the deal and decided to keep him, and Bale was not happy about that. There was multiple stories about him handing in a transfer request, and it took a while between him and Zidane to patch that back up. Madrid did win the 1920 La Liga title, but he only made 16 appearances, and then we were at last season where he was loaned out to Tottenham, his previous stomping ground, but he's no longer the main man in North London. Mourinho preferred stars like Harry Kane and Wang Son to the Welshman, but Bale did have bright spots, just a tough campaign. He scored another Premier League hat-trick and came off the bench on the last day of the season to secure Conference League football for Tottenham, but his impact wasn't too high and was quite a fall for grace. And now he's back at Madrid for this year, so that's the overview of both of their careers. My bad, it took a little bit longer than I thought. I thought it was going to be a quick overview, but anyway, it's fine. Let's move into the stats now. I'm not a full stat nerd. I don't think it's the best way to look at football. I don't think stats can always tell you what's happening through a game. But stats can be a useful way to supplement your original opinion on players and to add some fact to the emotion and to the eye test. Since these guys are both wingers, and predominantly they were used as inverted wingers, not like goal scorers like you see today, like a Salah or Ronaldo, more like a good threat from wide. Goal scoring is a bit less important to me in these stats. What I want to know is dribbles completed, chances created, key passes, then goals, that kind of stuff. I want to see more. I wanted to take a look more at how many opportunities and chances are you making, as well as how often you could score yourself. How consistent are you? What can I expect you to do week after week, month after month, season after season? If I was going to sign one of you, am I signing someone who's purely an individualist playing in a team, or is this someone who gives something back to the group as well? So let's take a look at the numbers. Both players played in England and Spain, with Robben playing in a competitive league in Germany. Both players have been Champions League players for pretty much the bulk of their career. The difference between them is since he left Holland, Robben has pretty much played on league-winning quality sides, whereas Bale only played for a genuine contender at 24 when he signed for Madrid. Also, obviously, Arjen Robben is 5 years older and retired, and Bale's career is not finished, so this does need to be taken into account. So I want to take a look at all their seasons and then their 3 peak years, and this will be a lot of numbers, so my bad. My bad. So for their full seasons, games played, Robben is up 37, 426 to 379. Robben's also played more full 90s, played about 9 more. In his career, he scored 10 more goals. It's 150 to 140 in favour of Robben. And he has 28 more assists, 100 assists to 72. And for Robben, what a way to retire, 150 goals and 100 assists. That's phenomenal. So he's ahead in the basic numbers, but I saw relative compared to how many games they played. So let's look at per 90. Now, per 90 is a bit different. If you don't know, I don't want to see how many goals you scored in your entire career. I want to know how many you scored per game, per 90 minutes you played. So that strips away injuries a bit more. It strips away games played. It's just about every 90 minutes what you produce in. Robben is plus 0.2 in goals per 90. So basically no difference. They pretty much score at the same rate. And the same in assists. It's 0.08. Robben is higher, but that's marginal. Pretty much scoring, pretty much assisting at the same rate. And it's likely that Bale will overtake this because he's still playing and he's not far behind. So by the time he retires, he probably would have blown past Robben in these stats. But like I said, these guys are inverted wingers. They're not goal-scoring wide men. They're not inside forwards. So let's take a look at more creative or chance-creating numbers. So dribbles per 90, Bale's higher, 1.62 to 1.47. And the number of dribbles isn't actually too different. It's what they do with the dribbles is the big problem here. When you look at final third carries, Robben is ahead. Final third carries is how often you pick up the ball and drive it into the opposition's final third before you get tackled. Robben's is higher, so what that means is he is penetrating the opposition's final third more than Bale is. Bale's dribbling in his own half more. This is the same with carries into the box, where Robben's getting into the 18-yard box much more than Gareth Bale. He's more direct, he's putting more pressure on the opposition's back line. I actually wouldn't have thought that seeing them play, but the numbers show Robben is much more direct. Next, shot creating actions. So this is fouls, dribbles, or passes that lead directly to shots. So if you're a striker, imagine you're Robert Lewandowski. What you want is for your winger to be doing stuff that leads to opportunities for you to take shots. So Robben dwarfs Bale in this. 4.7 shot creating actions where Bale's under 3. So Robben's getting fouled more, that's leading to someone shooting. He's dribbling more, that's leading to a chance. He's creating passes that lead into chances. He's doing more stuff than Bale is. Alright, so not to bore you to death, the final stat we'll look at is progressive passes. So, how many of your passes move the ball 10 yards closer to the opposition goal? And keeping with the trend, Robben is much more effective with the ball in the opposition's half than Bale is, doubling his progressive passes with 6 per game. So let's now look at 3 peak seasons. And when I say 3 peak seasons, I don't mean 3 random years. I mean 3 in a row where you were at your peak performance, the levels you were at. So for Bale, it's the 12-13, 13-14 and 14-15 seasons. Those 3 in a row. And for Robben, it's actually the same period. At the time when I first started researching this episode, I definitely didn't think it'd be the same 3 years. But for both of them, 12-13 to 14-15 is the 3 best seasons they had in their career. Now, injury will play a big part in this because Robben and Bale aren't exactly, they're not Iron Men. They're not Michelin men. They get injured a lot. So, to balance out durability and injuries, I want to look at per 90s as well as the total stat. So, 4 per 90s in this 3-year period, Robben still comes out ahead in the key stats. Goals and assists, chances created, plus minus, which is how many goals his team scores or concedes while he's on the pitch. Every credible stat, Robben is ahead. So between 12-13 and 14-15, if you were going to have someone play on the right hand side just behind your striker, you would have picked Iron Robben over Gareth Bale. In fairness, that makes sense to me. I'm obviously biased, but it does make sense to me. And then when you look at their honours, Gareth Bale's trophy cabinet is no slouch and it's right up there with some of the best. But I still... I don't know, that's an argument. Bale has 4 Champions Leagues, 2 Spanish league titles, 2 Spanish Cups, 2 Spanish Super Cups. Obviously, like a trillion-time Welsh Player of the Year. But the big weight in the trophy cabinet is coming from the Champions League. Whereas with Robben, he only has 1 Champions League. But what he has to make up for that is league titles. He won 2 in England, 1 in Spain, 1 in Holland, 8 in Germany, 8 league titles in Germany, as well as 5 German Cups, 1 Bayern Munich Player of the Season, 1 German Football Player of the Year, and then he finished third and fourth in 2 different UEFA Player of the Years. Now, the thing about finishing third and fourth is that it basically means he finished first and second, because Ronaldo and Messi are playing, they're in their own competition. So compared to the rest of the other humans on the planet, Robben was the best. And there was a year that you could argue, which year am I thinking? I think 13-14, either 12-13 or 13-14, that him and Ribéry could have won the Ballon d'Or that year. There's an argument they could have won it that year. So moving on from that, if you go to their big moments, this is where it gets a bit dicey for Robben. Obviously, the key numbers, the overall career, you're looking at Robben being ahead, but when it comes to their big moments, no one does them like Gareth Bale. The winner against Bartra and Barcelona in the Cup final was an incredible goal. Scoring in Champions League final against Atletico Madrid, winning man of the match in the Champions League final with the overhead kick, making his league and international debut at 16, sweeping the PFA trophies, first player to do that since Ronaldo, breaking the transfer record, the hat-trick at the San Siro. Bale's career is littered with... Bale's got higher peaks, I think. The peak version of Gareth Bale, I think, is better than the peak version of Arjen Robben. Robben's isn't a slouch. The volley in the second leg at Old Trafford is amazing technique, and the celebration became stuff of legend. Like I said earlier, the dismantling of Roma, the 2013 Champions League semi-final, where Bayern, led by Robben particularly, put Barcelona to the sword, beat them 7-0. He was amazing over those 2 legs. I said I'm going to keep this to club football, so I will do, but I have to mention 2010 World Cup, he's amazing, gets to the final, obviously they lose, but Robben is unstoppable. And then the icing on the cake has to be beating your biggest rival in the Champions League final, but Bale can say he's done that twice. So now we're at the end. We're at the final part where I have to give my opinion. I try to be as unbiased as possible. Obviously these two are 2 of the greatest of their generation, 2 of the best of my generation of watching football. You'd argue that probably Salah, Neymar, Mbappe are the only other wide men that can really be in this conversation. Maybe Eden Hazard. But Robben, Bale are different gravy. Like I said just now, I think with Bale you get higher heights. I think the peak, if you had to bottle all their career into one season, or if you had to get the best out of them for one season where you knew they weren't going to get injured, you'll get more from Bale. You might get 30 and 20 from Bale. You might get a serious athletic freak who can kick the ball from anywhere, put it into the top corner from anywhere, beat anybody in a 1v1 because of how fast and how strong he is. He's got great technique. He can cut inside. He can go outside. He can hammer it on his right. He can power it on his left. He can head... The best version of Gareth Bale is better than the best version of Arjen Robben, I think. And that hurts to say. The thing is that I think that that's not possible. You can't just boil it down to the best version of them. If you took their career, you take Robben's 10 out of 10 times, I think. I think you take a man who was the main man on one of the best teams in the world for 10 years, who won everything there is to win, who proved he could do it in multiple leagues as a big member of the team, and created a signature style that everybody who came after you, or even at the time, adapted. I think if you're a manager, you might, well, both of them, you can't trust either of their fitness, to be honest. But if Gareth Bale was not fully fit, I'd go with Arjen Robben. And I think the best version of Bale was better, but you're not going to get the best version of someone for an entire career. So I would go with Arjen Robben's career. If I was a manager and I had to sign one for my club to play his entire career there, I'd sign Arjen Robben. I would make sure I got myself a great number 10, a good defensive fullback because he's not going to love coming back to defend, and number 9 who can pick off scraps, and I would let Robben go 1v1 like Riyad Mahrez was all game long, and Lord help the fullback. I think this is hard though. I would not be surprised if everybody reply back to me and told me I was wrong. I wouldn't be surprised if Gareth Bale tweeted me and said, "Are you alright? I'm definitely betting him." Actually, I would be surprised at that. I think these two are real close, but I just edge it to Robben. And I'm not trying to be biased. I'm smiling now, but I'm not trying to be biased. I do think Bale was a phenomenal player, but Iron Robben is a different level of consistency over his career that Bale doesn't have. But that's the end of this week's episode. That's the end of episode 1 of this series. This is actually really hard. Really enjoyable, really hard. I've got loads of matchups in my head, and I don't know who exactly I'm going to pick for next week, but I've got good ones. Players from this era that you compare to last era that you wouldn't think about, or 2 players from this generation that you don't quite assume are the same style or the same level of player, but when you put their numbers and their career side by side, you think to yourself, oh, they're actually closer than I thought. So please stick around. If you've got any matchups you think will be great, please let me know. Get at me at all the socials, all that corny stuff. I really appreciate the support. The listeners, you guys are doing great. Last couple episodes have done really, really well. So I really appreciate that, guys. Keep it going. Thanks for all the support, and I'll see you next week. Peace.